Hello, I'm Rabyd, otherwise known as the Rabid Atheist, a former pastor turned atheist, now compassionate anti-theist. Welcome to my channel. Feel free to like or dislike the video as you see fit, so feel free to hit those buttons. Feel free to comment below, and I would appreciate it if you'd subscribe to the channel and hit your notification bell for more content as it is released. You're also free to share my videos as much as you like. The purpose of this channel is educational in regards to deconversion and atheist issues, and also politics, religion, theology, Bible, philosophy, whatever seems to come up in the relationship to those issues. Today, I am going to basically address a single comment directly. I will also probably hit a couple other comments. But there was a comment that was posted on my more recent video, Overcoming the Self-Righteousness of Faith. And it's basically a deconversion about how overcoming the self-righteousness of faith makes you, in my opinion, a better person. I think in that video, I do comment that something about the traditional arguments for God and in relationship to those arguments, how I have kind of dismissed them. And I want to address this particular commenter because I think he has a couple of false conceptions about what I am doing. I also think his comment to me has some problematic elements to it, and I think I want to address them. And this is from Conrad Walker. This is one day ago. He says, well, I think you should reconsider the ban on the traditional arguments for God's existence. When I was an atheist, I was often troubled that many of my intellectual heroes fared poorly in debates with well-educated and well-prepared theists. If we were the ones who pursued truth at all costs and truth was on our side, it should have been obvious. But sadly, as it seemed to me, when the worldviews of professional proponents of atheism and theism clashed in formal debate, atheism was greatly the worse for the wear afterwards. I was not alone in this feeling. Other atheists I knew agreed with my diagnosis, which made the situation all the more troubling. Okay, well, first of all, there's a lot of words like feel in there. This is why I don't like debates, because I think debates end up being something like this. You'll have a debate, and the theist will make his case, the atheist will make their case. Both sides will either do poorly or badly, and this is the problem, because it can be just that the atheist had a bad day or the theist had a bad day. And so you end up with all those feelings about how the debate went. And that's the problem with debates, because there tends to be too much emotionalism and not enough argument, at least in the ones that I have seen myself. There's also a lot of confirmation bias. Your average theist will think the theist did well, the atheist thought the other one did well, and which is why I don't like debates. And also how I feel about how debates go is completely irrelevant to whether or not the arguments for God's existence in a traditional sense hold water. I can take the argument without a proponent. I can simply have somebody who has laid out the argument in word form or done a video about it and presented the tenets of that argument. And in pure argumentation, it doesn't give I don't give a rat's ass about whether or not I felt the atheist did well or badly, or I felt the theist did badly. It doesn't matter. The issue is, do the premises follow into the conclusion? Does the conclusion follow from the premises? And are the premises true? If the premises are not true, okay, it doesn't matter whether somebody made it a better case or seem to have you can sit there and talk about feelings all you want. But when it comes to the arguments for God, all of the persons who made the traditional arguments of God made the claim that this was a logical proof of whether God did or did not exist. So it's irrelevant how I feel about those things. What's relevant is whether or not the argument is non-fallacious and whether the premises and conclusion are true. That's it. Okay. And that's kind of my real problem with I don't really care if you felt that the theists did a better job. Yeah, maybe in some debates they do a better job. If atheist is poorly prepared, or yeah, but that's just it, because you're dealing with a situational experience. Well, that doesn't prove or disprove the argument. It just proves to me why debates are pretty much, to me, non-effective. I would much rather have somebody lay out their argument and then give the other person plenty of time to respond to that argument and make sure that both sides work on putting their best foot forward over time. The traditional arguments of God for God's existence have been around literally centuries. And if they were all that damn convincing, all people would be theists. But they're not. And there's good reasons why they're not. It doesn't matter to me. And most atheists will agree with me, I think, in part. I mean, you're going to find bad atheists that don't know a lick about what they believe or why they believe it. The issue is, what in the hell is, true here? Can you prove the premises are true? Do the premises follow into the conclusion? Does the conclusion, a logical conclusion based on what the premises say? Eliminating fallaciousness. If an argument is fallacious, I can dismiss it. If any of the truth premises can't be proven or are proven untrue, I can dismiss it. If there's no evidence for the truth of a claim, I can dismiss it. It doesn't matter how atheists or theists perform in a debate any more than, whether somebody likes rock or pop and decides that the pop band perform better than the rock band. It doesn't mean dick. It doesn't mean anything, okay? To me, it's zero. It's a zero-sum thing about whether or not a debate went one way or another. I've seen a lot of atheist-theist debates, and I would make the same statement that I felt that the theists were unprepared, their arguments were old and flat, and quite frankly, I'd heard all of their same tired arguments before. They've been rehashed, and I thought the atheists kicked their ass. We could spend all day going back and forth about how we feel our side did better, but that's irrelevant. Okay, what's relevant is whether or not the argument is valid, whether it doesn't contain any flaws in the way it's laid out or set up. And to me, the best way to do that is to take your time, analyze the argument, steelman your opponent's position, steelman your own position, look for flaws in your own position, and go at it, okay, in that respect. Also, there is an essential difference in the way a theist has to argue and an atheist has to argue. The theist is in the position of making the claim and trying to prove their claim. The atheist is simply in the position of telling the theist why that claim is either invalid or doesn't work for them or can't be proven to be true. I don't have to prove my non-belief in God. The theist is the one that has to prove that they are right to believe in God. They are the ones making the claim. There is a God, and he has a wonderful plan for your life, and here's his plan of salvation. That's a pretty bold claim. You have to prove that claim. Whether evolution is true or not is irrelevant to that claim. Okay, it really is. Even if you could prove that evolution was completely false, it doesn't prove that God Yahweh created the world. That doesn't change anything. You still have to prove that claim with evidence and have to back it up. On with the comment. I'm no William Lane Craig. Be thankful for that. And you're no Alex Rosenberg. Don't care. But I would like to challenge you to engage the arguments more seriously. All right, I want to stop right there. I'm going to call this, I always assume like ignorance or, incompetence rather than malice, okay? And I don't know if you've had time to peruse through my library of stuff, if you've had a chance to look at my testimony or understand my background any better. To say that I haven't taken these arguments seriously, I'm going to chalk up to your ignorance. And that's not a slam on you. That's not a dig at you, Conrad. You just are ignorant of my past. Okay. Number one, I have been a Christian. I was a Christian for 40 years. For half of that time, I was a minister. I spent a good time amount of my time being an apologist and absolutely engaging these arguments and using them against atheists. Okay, I took them very seriously because I felt that at the time that they began to prove God's existence, and I used them. I even looked at I looked at the atheist positions, and I worked very hard to steelman them and see if the theist argument stood up as far as good logic, good rationale, and whether things could be proven to be true. And after a while, though, as I began to look at it, I began to side more and more with the atheist counters. Okay, because remember, it is these arguments for the existence of God that are making the claim. All the atheist has to do is say, those are unconvincing, and here's the reasons why. I'm not making a claim. I simply have no active belief in a God because I feel the evidence is flimsy to believe in a God. Okay, that's not a claim. That's just a response to your claim. Okay, and so you're the one left holding. You've made a positive claim. Prove it. Okay, so to say that I haven't taken these seriously, I'm just going to chalk up to your ignorance about my past, because I sure as hell have. I spent 2 or 3 years taking the arguments for the existence of God very seriously, and then steel manning the atheist position and realizing that the atheist position, when you set aside the emotionalism of debate, when you set aside all the garbage and you look at the premises and the conclusions and you begin to really analyze these things, you begin to realize that the traditional arguments for the existence of God all are fallacious. They all have premises that can't be proven, period. And when you come to that realization, you realize there is no evidence for God's existence. And even if an argument could be made to prove the existence of God, that doesn't necessarily prove the Christian God. You still, as Christopher Hitchens said, have all your work cut out for you. I'm going to move on a little bit. The internet is full of evangelical atheists. Well, that's funny. I don't know what claim we're evangelizing. Claiming to be compassionate haters of idiotic beliefs and the people that hold them. Okay, first of all, I am a compassionate person towards people. Okay, I do not want you to waste your time with something that's a fantasy. Okay, I spent 40 years wasting my time with this fantasy, 20 years in the pulpit, using the very arguments that traditional theists have used for years to prove the existence of God. And the more I analyze those arguments using logic, reason, looking for them for logical fallacies, I found them all to be fallacious. So to me, they're just dismissed on that grounds. The reason I put a ban on those traditional arguments is because, to me, it's repetition. I mean, if you want to hear my responses to all of them, I'm more than welcome to do that. But to me, I'm looking for something new. Can you give me a new claim that isn't at least 1,000 years old? I don't think you can. Okay, I don't think I'm going to be blunt. The internet is also full of evangelical theists who absolutely insult atheists by saying that they don't have any morality. They absolutely insult atheists by, calling us stupid, dumb, because we quote unquote believe in evolutionism or whatever else hell they want to say. I have literally seen creationists and all kinds of other people completely misrepresent and strawman both evolution, atheism, and everything else. And so the idea that this is a one-sided thing where only atheists do this, you need to start looking at your own side a little bit. There's literally apologists out there that are using 1,000-year-old arguments and presenting them as something new, and they're not new. They're the same old tired stuff that's always been there. I care about people, okay? And I am a compassionate anti-theist. I absolutely understand the indoctrination techniques that religions use to get people convinced that this is the truth and this is the way that it needs to be done. And I'm going to tell you right now that that's what happens in not almost every religion. There's some element of indoctrination where they ask you to believe something that they can't prove, period. Whereas atheism openly acknowledges there's a lot of things that we can't prove. I cannot prove to you that God does not exist, okay? What I can say to you is, given the current evidence and the current arguments for the existence of God, I am unconvinced, Okay. And I really think that other people should be unconvinced until theists get their act together and actually present an apologetic that actually isn't fallacious, doesn't have premises that I can challenge the truth of, or have stuff that's just straight up made up. Okay, I listened to Prophet of Zod go after one of his former preachers, and there's at least 3 or 4 times in that preacher's sermons where he just straight up makes up shit right off the top of his head because there's no evidence for what he's saying. And this is the kind of thing that happens all the time. I've lost track of the number of times that atheists have no basis for morality. I'm going to now call that what it is. It's an ad hominem attack, and it's irrelevant. Okay, for you to say that I don't have a basis for morality, yeah, that's just insulting. Okay, and you need to realize that morality doesn't rise and fall around your beliefs. Okay, morality is a much bigger question than a Christian question. In my opinion, while extolling the beauty and freedom of the scientific worldview. Okay, well, I'm not sure scientific worldview is accurate. In fact, I know atheists who would argue about where science is a worldview or just a mechanism by which inquiry for truth is done. And so, I'm not really sure that I would take the viewpoint that this is a worldview. To me, I think if you're going to look at worldview, you could probably say that humanism is a worldview. I'm not even really sure that atheism is a worldview because it simply says your claims are unconvincing that there is a God. Okay, and for whatever reason. Now, sure, there are some atheists that make a positive claim, and your argument is probably better with them because then they say, well, there is no God, and you can absolutely ask them, well, what is your proof that there is no God? And you would have a very valid case. That's why I don't take that position, because I think that is kind of going off on a limb. I'm not really talking about the beauty and freedom of the scientific worldview. I'm talking about the beauty and freedom of being free of indoctrinated shackles that have no basis in reality, from being fearful of an imaginary character that doesn't exist and has no proof of his existence. From being these are emotional freedoms, not necessarily intellectual ones or rational ones, but the emotional freedom of not having somebody feeling you feel guilty simply for being a human being. That's a far different issue here than what you're really addressing here. And quite frankly, I don't think that that's necessarily a fair assessment. It's my opinion, not that you really asked for it, that these folks are swimming in vacuity, immune to irony, and haven't studied a lick of evolutionary biology or neuroscience. While that is very true, that many atheists have not studied a lot of evolutionary biology or nuance, and there are some arrogant atheists out there. I won't deny that. There are some asshole atheists out there. I try not to be one of them. And I always defer to people that know more about things like evolutionary biology and neuroscience. There are plenty of YouTubers out there that are, however, very versed in evolutionary biology or neuroscience, many of which have degrees in the subject, and will probably be a better person to answer those questions. I can't think of any off the top of my head, but if you start looking at somebody like Vice Rhino, who, even though he doesn't have a degree, certainly has well studied both of those things. Not that he's an expert. He would probably find an expert and defer to that expert. I know Aaron Ra, for instance, has a bachelor's degree in paleontology, so he actually knows something about what he's talking about. So those two individuals do have some knowledge that I'm aware of. But the one thing you can come to me for knowledge for is I have degrees in Bible and theology. I ain't playing. So when I talk about the Bible, I ain't whistling Dixie. I know what I'm talking about. When I talk about theology, I know what I'm talking about. Been there, done that, got the t-shirt. When I talk about the classical arguments for the existence of God, I have taken them very seriously. I have used them. I have steel-manned them to death, and they still lose. Okay, because they lose because they don't have any good logic to them. They're fallacious, and quite frankly, there's certain things you just can't prove to be true in their premises, so you can't validate the conclusion. And a lot of it's either circular reasoning or begging the question, or I can't verify the truth of a claim. And so if you can't do that stuff, then, if you don't produce any evidence that the claim is true, I can dismiss it without evidence. I don't have to engage something that doesn't have any evidence. Anyway, be better than them. I think I am. I don't know what you're really talking about. I guess you'd have to give me examples of bad atheists to know whether or not I am better than them or not. Engaging the best against you will make you better. Maybe not popular, but better. I don't give a shit about popularity or being better per se, other than I believe in being a better person. As far as whether I'm very popular, I already hold several unpopular beliefs with atheists. I'm a libertarian atheist, which puts me at odds with a lot of liberal atheists and a lot of conservative atheists, because I yell at both of them for things that I considered flawed in how they approach political issues. I have certain viewpoints on certain things that I haven't really come to a conclusion on. So popularity really isn't the issue with me per se. As far as engaging the best arguments, I have engaged the best arguments. I've listened to the William Lane Craigs of the world, and I found their arguments poor, and I found better arguments on the other side. When you put away the emotionalism of debate and start looking at what the arguments actually say, laying them out premise by premise by premise, laying out the conclusion, analyzing it to see if it's fallacious, you begin to realize that the apologists, they're pretty weak. They're very, very weak. And they haven't really done anything new probably since 2006. With the soft tissue argument was the last argument I've heard apologists really come up with new, particularly creationists. And it's just not there. I'm going to call it quits for this one. I was probably going to try to address another comment, but I felt it was important to address this comment because I think there was a lot of misconceptions in it. And I just want to thank all of you for stopping by and listening. I appreciate all of you. I thank all of you for each like, share, and subscribe and all the notification bells that get pushed. And thank you once again. Every little bit helps grow the channel. I'm still trying to grow the channel, get my voice out there as much as possible to address all these questions that do indeed come up. And so that's kind of where I stand today. And, I appreciate everybody stopping by. Just a reminder, you can follow me on Facebook. The Rabyd Atheist is on Facebook. I'll leave a link in the description. I appreciate every single one of you that have done that. And hopefully we can grow a little bit of a different kind of community there away from the YouTube channel. And, hopefully I can convince you to be a rabid atheist like myself. In the meantime, this is Ed Rabyd, also known as the Rabyd Atheist, signing off and wishing you a good day.